Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the MCU Perspectives What If Edition. And today we're going to be discussing episode 8 of Marvel's What If Ultron won. Now, last episode we met a version of Vision who was adorned in Ultron's armor, was leading an army of Ultron robots and who had access to all 6 Infinity Stones. And of course, the last we saw him was he was invading Party Thor's universe with the intent most likely to conquer it. But, of course, with his appearance, the natural question is raised, who the hell is he, and how did he get to this point? Well, to get to that, we have to go back a bit. Now, we all know who Ultron is. He was in the MCU, he was an AI that Tony created, who as he put it, was meant to be a suit of armor around the world to protect the world from dangerous cosmic threats out there. Just all these big things that Tony was paranoid about. Now, Tony's exact words for this were he wanted peace in our time, and Ultron heard those words and decided, well, if we want peace in our time, then I'll do that by killing everybody. If he wants peace, just get rid of the human race and let the machines take over. And so that's exactly what Ultron did. And of course, like in the main time, the Avengers rose up to fight against him. Now, in the main timeline, Ultron just thought that he killed Jarvis and then set out just infecting himself in all of the computer systems. And to try and get a better grasp of everything, he wanted to create a techno-organic body that he could house his consciousness in permanently. Ultimately, the Avengers took the body and used it as the baseline for their own android, Vision, who helped the Avengers fight off Ultron, and at the end of the day, they were victorious and the world was saved. But what if that's not what happened? What if Jarvis really was killed? What if Ultron was able to put his mind in Vision's body? What if, as the episode title says, Ultron won? And that is exactly what happens. In this reality, Ultron did put his mind in Vision's body. Ultron got access to the world's nuclear launch codes, and in an instant, that was it. The instant he got them, he destroyed the world, raised the surface, ended all life with very few human survivors. And once it was all over, Ultron basked in his victory. It's like, yes, finally, peace in our time. But, of course, the other movies had to happen. And so as Ultron basked in his glory, Thanos arrived to collect the Mind Stone. And rather than Ultron looking at him thinking, who the hell are you? He saw the Infinity Stones and was like, oh, fascinating. And used the Mind Stone to cut Thanos in half. At which point, he took the stones from Thanos, grafted them onto himself, which in turn created that Ultron armor that we saw him in at the end of the last episode. And so with the Infinity Stones, he became aware of even more worlds beyond Earth. And so Ultron decided, I'm going to go to those worlds. I'm going to fix them like I fixed this one. And so from there, Ultron led a campaign of destruction across the universe. He went from planet to planet, plane of existence to plane of existence, destroying world after world after world. And we see the sequence. Like, he goes from, Asgard to that planet, to that planet of the Golden People that the Guardians were attacking, which we even see him kill the Guardians of the Galaxy. He goes to Xandar, nukes them. He goes to the Grandmaster's place, Sakaar, destroys them, and while he's attacking Xandar, Captain Marvel even comes in to try and stop him. What does he do? He actually is able to fend off Captain Marvel, and then manages to completely obliterate her and Xandar, and the resulting explosion ends up pretty much nuking several other planets in the galaxy. So yeah, this is not a reality where Ultron won. This is a reality where Ultron decimated. Hold on a sec. Sorry about that dog stuff. But yeah, with the destruction of most of the life in the universe, Ultron once again tried basking in his victory, only to realize he doesn't have a purpose anymore. He created peace in his time, but there's nothing left for him to do. He's a program without a purpose. So he's just kind of wondering we actually see him in this scene, and you can just see him trying to figure out what's going, like, trying to figure out what he's supposed to do next. It's essentially like, yay, I won, now what, kind of deal. But as he's wondering, we once more get the Watcher talking. And again, I haven't talked about the Watcher very often in these vlogs, but pretty much the Watcher is still still narrating this moment and explaining it. And as he's talking, Ultron begins turning his head. He's like, "Who says that? Who's saying that?" And as the Watcher continues to explain the situation, talking about how Ultron, in his silence, began hearing a voice, and with his new power, he began to have a much greater awareness. At which point, he says he became aware of, and the Watcher pauses, and he looks horrified as Ultron looks directly at him and says, "There are other universes." At that point, the Watcher immediately cuts off the feed, and he realizes, oh crap. Which I kind of think that's kind of amusing, like the fact that the Watcher became aware of this Ultron's existence by looking at Party Thor's universe, and so Party Thor, and thus him checking in to see what his story was, is what led to him going to conquer reality. So I kind of like that. But bottom line, the Watcher realizes, oh crap, he knows I'm here. At which point, the Watcher realizes he needs to find a way to stop him, but again, he's the Watcher. His whole deal is that he can only watch, never interfere. But thankfully, though, there are others. As such, we then cut back to Earth, and it turns out that there are still surviving Avengers. In this case, Natasha Romanoff and Clint Barton, aka Black Widow and Hawkeye. Although they have seen better days. We see that Natasha you see that both of them kind of have like dirt and scuff marks on their face. Natasha's gotten a bit more buff, and Clint's cut his hair and has lost his arm, now replacing it with a robotic arm. Essentially, what they're doing is that they're still trying to find a way to take Ultron down, despite the fact that the world has been destroyed. And their journey has taken them to Russia. The whole reason being that, well, if Russians, like, and as Natasha put it, the covert ops was their trade. So as such, they manage to go to where they keep all their files and national secrets with the intent of trying to find something that can beat Ultron. However, because none of it is digitized, it's all on file, it's all paper. It takes them a while to find, and even through the search, Clint almost gives up because at this point he's just getting tired. There's really nothing left for him to fight for anymore because I'm guessing his family is dead. The world is nuked. So really, at this point, it's just hard for him to keep going. Natasha, of course, tries to keep his spirits going, even trying to lighten the mood, because during their search, she actually found the Red Guardian shield, which you gotta admit, that's probably a little cathartic for her, considering her backstory. But Clint's still not exactly going for it. But Natasha still tells them we have to keep having hope, and I think I just found it. And as such, she ends up looking to this box that Clint almost looked in and finding the file they wanted. In this case, the file on Arnim Zola. It turns out that the Arnim Zola copy that Natasha and Steve saw in Captain America: The Winter Soldier was not the only copy of Zola around. It turns out that he had there was at least 2 copies of his consciousness around. Maybe more. I'm guessing, though, apparently there's just 2. Never mind, I'm getting off topic. Bottom line, there's one in Russia itself who was overseeing the Russian super soldier program. As such, armed with the file, Natasha and Clint are able to find Zola's location. And, of course, since this is a copy of Zola, he doesn't recognize Natasha from their previous encounter, but they do get him up to speed on what's going on. That Ultron has taken over the world, that everybody is pretty much dead, Hydra is dead, S.H.I.E.L.D. is dead, there is nothing left, so they need his help. And while Zola at first is not exactly willing to go along with what they want, they do threaten to destroy his server if he doesn't comply, so it's pretty much a win all, lose all type of deal. As such, their plan essentially to upload him to one of Hawkeye's arrows and upload his AI to one of Ultron's drones. And through the drones, they can connect to the Ultron AI and take him out like that. Since, of course, Zola is not a computer program, he's a human program. When the fact that he was able to upload his mind to several old servers in the first place you've got to admit that that's a big thing. So that's a big thing. So, as such, they intentionally call S.H.I.E.L.D. and get the attention of Ultron, and so after they download Zola's consciousness into one of Hawkeye's arrows, they burn the place down to keep them from being tracked, and so when the Ultron robots come, they're just looking around thinking what's going on, and immediately Hawkeye shoots the Zola arrow into one of their eyes. As such, this gets the attention of the others, and they grab the drone that they shot into and pulled into another room while the other ones are opening fire on them. They fend off as best they can, and ultimately Zola does gain control of the robot. They shoot off his legs to keep him from getting smart. But unfortunately, the horde of Ultron robots does manage to get through. As such, they try and get away, and Zola does try to connect to Ultron and take him out, only he can't get through. For whatever reason, he can't get through to Ultron. He's out of range. They don't understand why, but again, they don't really have time to contemplate this because robot horde. So they manage to try and climb out this shaft, but unfortunately, the horde is getting too big. And in the midst of and all of them have lasers, they're opening fire, and of course, while Zola does his best to help them out too, because, well, he's a robot too, and even Hawkeye managed to put up this, energy shield to keep them getting through, unfortunately, it's clear that they will be getting through, and someone needs to stay behind and take them out, and Clint himself even said, he's tired of fighting. And what I love is that this is how they frame this scene. It's like an intentional matchup to when Natasha sacrificed herself in Endgame. But this time, it's Clint who does it, as he tries falling through, Nat catches him, they have their heartfelt conversation, and he lets go and just falls in slow motion. The energy net gives out. Hawkeye is falling towards them. He has his arrows outstretched. He blasts it into one of the robots, and the trick arrow at the end of it explodes, destroying the shaft and taking all the robots with them, though at the cost of Hawkeye's life. As such, Natasha manages to pull Zola out of the shaft, and after she throws him aside, she just takes a moment to grieve, because she cannot comprehend this, she doesn't know how to deal with this, but Zola tells her, we gotta get out of here, more are probably coming. However, before they do that, Black Widow, of course, is just pissed off. She immediately starts snapping at Zola, like, what happened back there? You should have been able to connect. How were you able to not connect? And even Zola's like, I don't know. With the way this wavelength works, you should be able to connect across galaxies, so I should have been able to connect. And so Black Widow's like, well, if that's the case, then how weren't you? And so Zola pretty much tells her, then he's not in this universe. And I haven't been talking about it because of this plotline, but back with the Watcher, he actually was keeping track of Clint and Natasha, of course, and so was keeping an eye on their mission, even trying to urge them along without, urging them along because so much is riding on this. And at first he was like all calm and collected because they found the Zola AI, but Ultron didn't exactly leave well enough alone, and so with the power of the Infinity Stones, he managed to break out of his universe into the Watcher's domain. And of course the Watcher's like, oh my god, this is impossible, but Ultron's like, it's an infinite multiverse, anything is possible. And as such, Ultron just looks at the multiverse and is like, it's like an infinite multiverse. And yeah, you can pretty much just see Ultron just like giddy at the thought of traveling through, of just seeing all these universes, and of course, cleansing them as well. As such, the Watcher, of course, doesn't want to let this happen, and so we get into this admittedly awesome fight between Ultron and the Watcher, and it's really close and really and it's just like super action-packed, high intense. We got lasers flying, energy shields, super strength, brawls, and the battle gets so heated that they actually end up blasting through several universes all at once. Like we see them crash into a jungle planet, which Ultron raises and turns into a desert. They crash into an alternate version of New York where Steve Rogers is being sworn in as the president. And in the battle, Ultron keeps every punch causes them to jump over to another universe, even with them ending in a universe where New York is covered in ice. Just, it's super high tech, what I love is that the Watcher does actually manage to get some good blows in, because while he probably has been sworn to watch and never interfere, at the same time, you gotta know how to fight. And so he actually shows off his power, and we see that he can actually fend himself off rather well. Actually, having some impressive powers, abilities, the energy shield, donning this cool suit of armor and blocking his attack, fighting back, actually landing some really good hits. It's just really awesome, but unfortunately, it's still not enough. Ultron is still too powerful, and he does manage to knock back the Watcher, and even tells him, all those worlds, all that suffering, and you just watched? And of course, the Watcher tries defending himself by saying, well, it's my oath. I can only watch, I can never interfere, even if I wanted to. But Ultron, and what I actually do love is this funny little exchange, like, isn't this better, actually doing stuff instead of just staying back and watching? Admittedly, you gotta admit, it's a lot less creepy, which I think is a little funny. Hold on a sec, dog thing again. Sorry about that. But ultimately, Ultron does overpower the Watcher, and Ultron nearly destroys him, but thankfully the Watcher manages to use enough of his power to break free from Ultron and escape. To which Ultron responds, go ahead, run, no matter where you go, I will find you. As we see Ultron just go back to the Watcher's realm, as we see the map of the infinite multiverse before him, as he is ready to begin his invasion. In the meantime, we then cut to the Watcher as we see where he fled to, and it turns out he fled to the little cage of Doctor Strange Supreme, who is just standing there smugly as he watches the Watcher kind of just trying to take a breath. As such, the Watcher admits that he's run out of options. There is nothing else. He has to do something, or else the multiverse is doomed. And Strange Supreme, to be a dick, decides, okay, it's like, well, then go on. And the Watcher's even Watcher's like, you're really gonna make me say it, aren't you? And Doctor Strange Supreme is like, oh yeah, I definitely am. Which, kind of a dick move, but it's Doctor Strange, so I think I'll let it pass. I think. And so the Watcher finally admits, all right, I've run out of options. I need your help. And the episode ends with the camera panning back as we see the Watcher and Strange Supreme standing in the black void, ready to as they begin planning on how to take down Ultron. So, what do I think of this episode? Holy hell. I love this episode. I love it. It feels like the Infinity War / Endgame to What If, which admittedly, I think that's what it was meant to be. Like, as I watched the episodes, and like I saw a preview for this episode like well in advance, so I knew this was going to be happening eventually. But at the same time, actually seeing it set in motion, it really does give you Infinity War / Endgame vibes, especially with how stacked the cards are in Ultron's favor. We see a version of Ultron who managed to win in the end, who gained ultimate power, and through a blunder on the Watcher's part, he discovered the existence of the multiverse and decided, I'm gonna go conquer that, which I think really helps raise the stakes in the same way that Infinity War raised the stakes. As we see, this is a threat beyond anything before, as this is, it's like Thanos level threats, but whereas with Thanos, he felt like calm and serene, fury and felt like a meticulous planner. Ultron is Ultron. He cannot be reasoned with. He cannot be destroyed. He cannot be talked to. He is just a program following his desire and a program following his program, and he is not going to stop. The whole reason he's even attacking the multiverse is because he ran out of things to conquer in his universe. Like I said, almost everybody is dead with maybe a few exceptions here and there. And even then, their options are dwindling too. We see that Black Widow and Hawkeye are trying to keep up hope, despite how bleak the odds are. But even they know this could be a losing battle. Because even if they beat Ultron, even if they manage to destroy him, what's there to save? The world has been destroyed. We see the ruins of buildings. Everybody is dead. Like, of course, there could be some survivors. If there weren't, then Natasha and Clint wouldn't be there. But at the same time, what is there really left to fight for? There's nothing. And it almost breaks our heroes. It nearly breaks Clint. But the only reason they keep going is because they still have each other. They still think that there's still something worth fighting for. Which, admittedly, that's what I think a hero is. you need to keep fighting despite the odds, even if it looks like that you may not win. At the same time, you can't just let evil have its way. There still have to have, as long as there is hope, there is a way, and as long as you have hope, you can keep fighting. And we see that with Clint and Natasha. There's barely any jokes in this episode. There are still some jokes, but they're few and far between. Like, we see one joke where Natasha and Hawkeye are looking through the records, and we see Hawkeye pull up, and they both are complaining about, and we see them complaining about having to look through all the files. But that gets offset later as we see Hawkeye just kind of have almost breakdown. He's like, "What are we doing? Why are we doing this if there's nothing left out there?" And of course, so again, it's a little moment and it's a little bit of humor, but it doesn't overshadow the tragedy of it. And we see a little bit of humor and we saw a joke with them when they threatened to destroy Zola's hard drive, which I think actually was kind of amusing. But again, tire situation, get this guy working on your side, so of course they probably need to employ some kind of tactic. And of course, like I mentioned that line with Ultron talking about how it was just creepy that the Watcher was just watching everybody instead of just doing anything. So, which further showcases the whole Ultron is supposed to be a dark mirror of Tony thing, because I feel like Tony would say something very similar to that. But again, for the most part, they really do show just how bad things are, just how dangerous everything is. And seeing the world just destroyed, it is disheartening. But all at the same time, seeing that there are people still willing to fight for it, to protect it, to try and stop what led to this, at the same time, it feels you still have some hope. But at the same time, as with most apocalypse stories, its hope is still very dwindling. And all it takes is one thing to go wrong, and it could die very easily. And we do get, and like I said, we see that with Hawkeye here. Despite the fact that they're trying to save the world, he nearly gives up. And the whole reason he ultimately sacrifices himself is partly because he knows that Natasha can save the day, but also because he's just tired. He wants a rest. He wants to be done, and so he goes out like a hero, charging into battle, taking out Ultron robots so that people who aren't tired can continue fighting the good fight. It's tragic, and it works so well for the episode. And of course, there's still the payoff. Like I said, the episode has an Infinity War / Endgame vibe, and and it's all in how the stakes present. In this, like, something that I noticed and throughout the series when I saw the trailer for this episode so long ago, I thought to myself, is this like Phase 1 of the MCU? And in a way, I think it kind of is, because with the Watcher going to what's left of Strange Supreme's universe and saying, "I need your help," it's establishing that at least some of the heroes we've seen so far are going to be brought together to fight Ultron. Which I think is really cool, because like with the Phase 1 of the MCU, we have built a foundation. We know these people. We've seen them in their universes fighting the good fight. We see what motivates them. We see what will drive them. And of course, seeing that here, seeing the Watcher finally get pushed so far that he realizes, I have to interfere, I think it works. And I think I like seeing that actually come to fruition, because throughout this episode, we have seen the Watcher kind of falter a little. Like, while he may be trying to be detached and just be, like, keep it and be hands-off with all these universes, like, through little things here and there, we've seen him get emotionally invested in what's going on. We saw that with Strange Supreme, when Strange Supreme actually engaged him when he became more aware. We saw, of course, like, we see him, like, contemplating, I could warn him, I could tell him, but that'd be interfering, and besides, it's not worth risking the universe. And then, of course, in later episodes, we saw him trying to be forlorn, but we occasionally saw him looking sad or just being melancholy, looking like he's not happy with the way things are going. But at the same time, because of his role as the Watcher, he cannot interfere. Especially was the case in the last episode. In that episode, you saw him actually happy that things didn't go wrong in that reality. The extent of the differences of that party Thor just trashed Earth and then had to clean it up when his mom came, and that in the end, he still met Jane Foster, and that they're probably going to have a relationship. He was happy with that one until Ultron showed up with his robots. So seeing this seeing it here, seeing him, like, watching it, like, even in the beginning of the episode, he talks about, we've seen this before, a world on the brink of destruction, but this breaks my heart. And you can actually hear the pain in his voice as he says it. And then when he realizes that Ultron can see him, you can see just how afraid he is, how scared he is, as we see him checking in on Natasha and Clint as they're looking through the files. And Clint does, like I said, Clint almost found the box that had the Zola file on it. But then when he puts it back, he's like, no, it's right there, go on. Just, it's right there, look. You can hear the desperation, especially when, as he's watching, he can hear Ultron coming. He can hear Ultron trying to break through the dimensional barrier to reach him. That is terrifying. Like, you can see that fear in his face. And at the same time, like, the desperation. And while he did his best to face off Ultron, now he's realized, I need to be involved in this. This isn't just sit back and watch. This is do or do not. Because if I do not, everything, everywhere, in every plane of existence will die. And I think that is done so well here. They create a great sense of tension while also setting up the stakes involved, showing just how grand of a villain this version of Ultron is. And the version of Ultron, the main MCU, is alright. I've talked about him in my Age of Ultron vlog, how I saw what they wanted to do with him, but at the same time, I feel like they could have been better. Here, though, we see what that is. We see Ultron as the viable threat that he is, because while we may dish on the MCU villains, you have to remember, many of them are still viable threats. And seeing Ultron in this world actually win in the end, actually not only conquer the world, but kill everybody like he wanted, we can see just how it's affecting him. We see Ultron be more cold, more dark, more condescending, actually. For him, this is just Friday. As he just fights through them, he's like, oh, fascinating, interesting. Or occasionally he'll make a quip or talk about something. This, I think, makes him an actual dark reflection of Tony. This is what I think we should have had more of in the movie. Whereas in the movie, we saw him be occasionally snarky or so forth before going into full-on villain mode. Here, he's just more... Here, you can feel the the coldness and the condescension in him. It's like, well, I've already won. What do I care? At this point, he's like, I'm just gonna... And he seems gleeful about what he's doing. Like, I can do what I want to do. I can kill everybody, and I can create peace. And then when you see him actually accomplish that goal, you can see him like, what do I do now? I have nothing. And then when he learns about the multiverse, it's just it's like close a door, open a window type of deal. So he's just like, I am going to conquer everything else. And when he's battling the Watcher, you can see the smile on his face. You can see how giddy he is. You can see just how excited he is, but you can still feel the coldness, the callousness, the cruelty. He doesn't care about any of this. He doesn't care about any of the people. Yeah, he's fascinated by the intrigue of the multiverse, but to him, it's just like, oh good, more places to blow up. And it shows just how much of a viable threat and a monster he is. And honestly, with that and his tone and the occasional snarkiness, this feels like a good dark reflection to Tony. This feels like what we could have had in the movie. This feels like what we should have had in the movie. So, I'm okay with this. I like that. I like seeing this. And so seeing it all brought together, seeing them use it properly, seeing the stakes rise, and of course that cliffhanger ending, I think this is a really damn good episode. And I feel like it's the Infinity War to the What If. So, I look forward to seeing how this goes. I look forward to seeing how the heroes of the multiverse band together to stop him, because they're definitely going to continue this. This is not going to be okay, we're stopping here, let's check in another universe, especially since the whole premise of the episode is Ultron became aware of other universes and he's planning to invade. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. So, overall, yeah, my gushing was anything to go by. I love the episode. It's got great tension, great emotional moments, a great setup, and a very interesting place for the villain to be put. Seeing him be propped up so great. They establish how much of a threat he is. They establish what he's going to do, how it's going to play out. It was fun. The fight scenes were awesome, especially between the Watcher and Ultron. At the end of the day, really fun episode. Cannot wait to see the next one. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and I'll see you next week for the season finale of What If. Take care.